Good morning. This is Cecil and Blues. Thank you for joining me. Today I'd like to talk about Wildstar, something I haven't done for a while. I jumped into the 10-day trial being offered to both new and returning players to see how the game has changed. I was interested in in-game changes and the adjustments to the new user experience. Wildstar has a reputation of being confusing to new players, and I'd hoped to see improvements in this area. I played through the tutorial on live servers, and saw changes that were good, but still didn't address many of the issues that confused new players. I made a bunch of notes and I was about to record a video when I noticed that more changes were planned in the upcoming patch. That there were going to be smoothing done to the tutorial and to the early Nexus zones.
Well, thank you for that.
I was thankful to see that the team still recognized that this was a serious issue, and recognized that the best way to grow your player base is to ensure that new players have a fun time and want to experience more of the game. Before I did any recording, I downloaded the PTR client and logged in to see what other changes have been made. The changes I noticed were odd. In Bell Walker's room, there is now only one item to collect for Tales from Beyond the Fringe, instead of 3 pages that unlock a single story. Why? I would think having an early understanding that Tales from Beyond the Fringe is a collection type item that unlocks a single story would be beneficial. I would think that instead of reducing it to a single pickup, what you would want to do is instead explicitly state how Tales from Beyond the Fringe works, so that the player understands Tales from Beyond the Fringe when it encounters it after landing on Nexus. I think this should have been done with a tooltip or in the quest text offered by the quest giver. The next change I noticed was pick 3 veggies instead of 5. Again, why? The number of veggies being picked is not the confusing part of that quest. Delivering the veggies to their planter is the part that is not clear to a new player. This quest should have more feedback. Once the veggies are picked, it should use a pop-up to alert the player to deliver them to their planter, and remind them how to use the quest tracker to point them in the right direction if they need it. There are reductions to kill counts needed in other quests as well, but that's not really the issue with the tutorial, especially now that you can skip it. If you're just looking to save time, you won't do the tutorial at all. Figuring out what confuses new players or causes them to stop playing can be really hard, especially if you're an experienced player. The tutorial for a player who's been through the game is just autopilot. Even when you try and think about it, the roadblocks can be hard to identify. I'm going to give you the 3 biggest changes I think need to be made to the tutorial to help new players understand the game better. These suggestions are based on my experiences playing with friends when they were new to Wildstar, and the questions they asked me or the complaints they had during the tutorial and early game experience. First, words. Words need to be bigger and more important. Almost all the tutorial pop-ups are tiny, hard to notice, or have giant splash images that don't convey information. The words need to stand out more, and they need to give more complete information. The tutorial tooltips especially. Look at this example. The provided image is stylish and pretty, but it doesn't teach anything, and it completely distracts from the words, which by contrast are tiny and implied to be unimportant. This is not a unique example. Nearly all of the tutorial pop-ups feature humorous, yet useless screenshots. These tutorial screens need to be updated to provide more instructional images, or to make the words bigger than the pictures at the very least.
You leveled up. Way to go,
Second,
Cupcake.
tooltips for the level up window. I'm glad to see some work was done to the level up interface. At least if you click on the items on the list, it does something now. But it's still insufficient, even for experienced players trying a new class. All of these items should have related tooltips. The new abilities should have the tooltip for the ability. New features should explain what that feature is and how to access it. Stat increases should include the amount of the stat that has been increased. Especially for the early levels, the tooltip should include instructions on how to access relevant menus. This is a trend that needs to be spread out not just for level 1 and level 2, but all the way to level 50. New abilities and systems should always be explicitly explained to the player, and this is the best place to do it. It's consolidated and well organized. It just needs tooltips. Third, special movement. Dodge rolling, sprinting, and double jumping are very loosely touched on in the tutorial and easily missed by a new player. And they're essential to the way that Wildstar's combat works. Forcing players to use dodge and sprint is tricky, but double jump at the very least is easily forced. Back to Bell Walker's room. Add a box here on this pathway leading to the final bomb. Now it's not possible to make this jump unless the player learns that they can double jump. An additional pop-up reinforcing that it is possible to double jump and how to do it should also be added. I'd further like to see better tutorialization of how combat works, how important it is to avoid telegraphs, but that gets into a whole new level of game design that I'm really not comfortable really even theorizing on. But those are my top 3 suggestions. This is by no means addressing everything that confuses new players in Wildstar, but it's a strong start. Making sure new players land on Nexus both engaged and not confused is an important part of growing the player base. I hope this feedback is helpful in improving this experience. Let me know in the comments what changes you'd like to see made to the tutorial. Or what you like seeing in tutorials in general. What other games have you played which had really strong tutorials, really excellent early game experiences? Thank you for joining me. My name is Cecil in Blues. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel to be notified when new videos are posted. You can also follow me on Twitter @itsboats. I have included a link in the video description below to Wildstar's 10-day free trial if you want to see how the game has changed or if you want to give it a first try. I'll be back in a few days to talk about present-day life at 50 in Wildstar. Until then, have a great day.
Things are getting foul and freaky in the forest, and no one seems to know why. Ready to put your big person pants on? Time to take care of business!